वासुदेवाय.
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय.
Good evening. Everybody is welcome for this Bhagavad Gita class. Today we are reading from the Bhagavad Gita chapter 9, which is titled as Rajavidya Rajaguhya Yoga. So I have sent a list of the shlokas that we are reading. We'll go around reading again.
First श्लोक 9.1 श्री भगवान उवाच इदं कृते गुह्यतं प्रवक्ष्याम्यसूयते ज्ञानं विज्ञानसहितं यज्ञात्वा मोक्षसे शुभाम्. Repeat after me. इदं तुते गुह्यतं श्री भगवानुवाच
श्री भगवानुवाच
इदं तुते गुह्यतमम् प्रवक्ष्याम्यं सूयवे ज्ञानं विज्ञानसहितं यज्ञात्वा मोक्षसे शुभात्. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence.
9.3.
अश्रद्धान पुरुषः धर्मस्य परन्तम अप्रायमान निवृत्तम् मृत्यु संसार वर्तमी. Translation. Those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me. O conqueror of enemies, therefore they return to the path of birth and death in the material world.
क्षेण प्रकृतिः श्रूयते सचराचरम् हेतुनानेन कौन्तेय जगत् विपरिवर्तते. This material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction. O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again.
जानन्ति मामूढा
मानुषीतनुमाश्रितम्
मानुषीतनुमाश्रितम्
परं भावमजानन्तो
परं भावमजानन्तो
मम भूतमहेश्वरम्
मम भूतमहेश्वरम्.
Who deride me when I descend in the human form? They do not know my transcendental nature as the Supreme Lord of all that be.
Nine point 12. नाही सॉरी 11 झालं ना आपलं. 12.
मोघाशामोघकर्माणो
मोघाशामोघकर्माणो
मोघज्ञानाविचेतसः
मोघज्ञानाविचेतसः
राक्षसी वासुरी चैव
राक्षसी आसुरी चैव
प्रकृतिं मोहिनी श्रितः
प्रकृतिं मोहिनी श्रितः.
Those who are thus bewildered are attracted by demonic and atheistic views. In this deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture for knowledge are all defeated.
9.13.
महत्मानस्तु मा पार्थ
महात्मानस्तु मा पार्थ
दैवी प्रकृतिमाश्रिताः
दैवी प्रकृतिमाश्रिताः भजन्त्यानस्त्यमनसो ज्ञात्वा भूतादिवं व्ययम्. O son of Partha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the production of divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible.
तेतं भुक्तां स्वर्गलोकं
तेतं भुक्त्वा स्वर्गलोकं विशालम्.
विशालम्
अनुष्टुप छंद एक लाइन एक
तेतं भुक्त्वा स्वर्गलोकं विशालम्
तेतं भुक्त्वा स्वर्गलोकं विशालम्
क्षीणे पुण्ये मर्त्यलोकं विशन्ति
क्षीणे पुण्ये मर्त्यलोकं विशन्ति.
एवं धर्मम्
अनुप्रपन्ना
एवं त्रयीधर्मानुप्रपन्ना
एवं त्रयीधर्ममनुप्रपन्ना
गतागतं कामकामा लभन्ते
गतागतं कामकामा लभन्ते.
when they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus, those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the three Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death.
9.22.
अनन्याश्चिन्तयन्तो माम्
अनन्याश्चिन्तयन्तो माम्
ये जनाः पर्युपासते
ये जनाः पर्युपासते
तेषां
तेषां नित्यभियुक्तानां
योगक्षेमं वहाम्यहम्.
योगक्षेमं वहाम्यहम्.
Translation: But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have.
लहान असताना मी याच्यावर नाटक केलं होतं चौघांनी या श्लोकावर सुंदर नाटक होतं आम्ही गीता जयंतीमध्ये पण सादर केलं होतं.
अच्छा, अरे वा.
आणि नंतर ते हे आले होते काय
दादा
वासवानी, दादा वासवानी, त्यांच्यासाठी आपण खास त्यांनी रिक्वेस्ट केली होती तुम्ही कराल का मग मी केलं होतं.
नाईस नाईस
या
नाईस. या
श्लोकावर
श्लोकावर
सुंदर नाटक आहे.
व्हिडिओ पाठवशील तुम्ही इंग्लिश
पाठवलं.
ये पन्यदेवता भक्ता यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः
येऽपि अन्यदेवता भक्ता यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः
तेऽपि मामेव कौन्तेय
मामेव कौन्तेय
यजन्त्य विधिपूर्वकम्
यजन्त्य विधिपूर्वकम्.
Translation. Those who are devotees of other gods, who worship them with faith, actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way.
Service 9.26.
पत्र पुष्प फल तोय
पत्रं पुष्पं फलं तोयं
यो मे भक्ता प्रयच्छति
यो मे भक्त्या प्रयच्छति
तदह भक्तु पत्र
भक्त्युपवृतं
तदह भक्तु पुत्र श्रमामि
तदहं भक्त्युपवृतं अश्नामि प्रयतात्मनः.
प्रत्यामि रतात्मनः.
तुम्हाला जर फोड समजत नसेल ना तर इंग्लिशमध्ये ते खालचं आहे ना त्याच्यात फोड व्यवस्थित केली होती बघा.
अच्छा.
त्याच्यात समजतं आपल्याला कुठे थांबायचं आहे कुठे चेंज करायचं आहे शब्द.
A translation: If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it.
9.29.
समोहं सर्वभूतेषु
समोहं सर्वभूतेषु
न मे द्वेषोऽस्ति न प्रियः
न मे द्वेषोऽस्ति न प्रियः
ये भजन्ति तु मां भक्त्या
ये भजन्ति तु मां भक्त्या
मयि ते तेषु चाप्यहम्.
मयि ते तेषु चाप्यहम्.
Translation. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all, but whoever renders services unto me in devotion is a friend. Is in me, and I am also a friend to him.
9.34. श्लोक म्हणू का?
थांब दोन मिनिटं. तो वाच.
मन मना भावा मद भक्त्यो
मन मना भव मद्भक्तो
मध्य जी नमस्करो
मद्याजी मां नमस्कुरु.
मामे वैश्यसि
मामे वैश्यसि युक्त्वैवम् आत्मानं मत्परायणः.
Engage your mind, always think in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer obeisances to me and worship me, being completely absorbed in me. Surely you will come to me.
Before we understand the meaning and the purport,
Let's take the blessings of the Guru Parampara. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Ninth chapter is as the name suggests, it is the most important and the most mysterious and the most confidential knowledge. Right? Like Bhagavan says here in the first sloka itself, that idam tute guhyatamam pravakshyamyam anasuyave Jnanam Vijnana Sahitam Yajñatva Mokshase Shubha. So, Lord Krishna here is mentioning that this is Raj Vidya. Okay? So, earlier in the 4th chapter, if you recollect, Lord mentioned that this is the knowledge he has given to Raja Rishis. Right? So the rishis, the rajas who had the qualities of the rishis, to them he had given this knowledge, right? And here he is now again referring this as Raja Vidya. The heading of the chapter is Raja Vidya, Raja Guhya Yoga. So, does this mean is it not for the common people? Are we not supposed to? This is for the Raja Rishis, this is Raja Vidya, Raja Guhya. Does this mean that it is not for the common people like us? Not at all, right? It's a knowledge for everybody. Lord chose, Bhagavan, he chose to give it to Vivaswan, then Vivaswan gave it to Ikshvaku, and then to Manu, and so on, right? However, like in any society, people would want to focus on ensuring that the output of whatever efforts we take is the most. And during those times, the kings, they had the maximum reach. So the kings would absorb this knowledge under the guidance of the Brahmanas, and then they can propagate this knowledge further, and that is why Bhagavan shared with them. Now, is it oxymoron here that Bhagavan is saying that this is Raja Vidya and Raja Guhya? Now, there are at least a few tens of millions of copies of Bhagavad Gita that have been printed so far. So many people know it by heart. So what is confidential here? What is Guhya?
Maybe the meaning.
The meaning is Guhya. The purpose is Guhya. Who is Bhagavan? That is such the confidential knowledge. Even after reading the whole of the Bhagavad Gita, if the guidance is not proper, the person will not understand who Bhagavan is. And that is why it is called as Raj Guhya. It is extremely confidential knowledge. Right?
Extremely confidential knowledge about what?
About Bhagavan himself. Now, if we try to understand the Bhagavad Gita, the way it is placed, the first 6 chapters, they are on the Karma Yoga. In between is the Bhakti Yoga, and the last 6 chapters are the Jnana Yoga. So, the middle portion is the heart and soul of Bhagavad Gita in the form of the Bhakti Yoga. And within the Bhakti Yoga, this 9th chapter is the मोस्ट इसेन्स आपण अर्क म्हणतो ना, तसा अर्क आहे ह्या सगळ्या भगवद्गीतेचा ह्या 9व्या अध्यायामध्ये. अँड द ब्युटी इज दॅट इन स्पाइट ऑफ so obviously written, people are unable to understand who Bhagavan is and why it is not understood. That also is explained over here in this shloka itself. First shloka, idam tite guhyatamam pravakshyami anasuyave. How many of you know the word asuya? What does it mean? Envy, dvesh, right? So the challenge is one is unable to first of all listen to this knowledge without any ill feelings. The moment we hear about the glories of the Lord, the first thing comes to our mind is, why is Lord enjoying? Why am I not enjoying? He has so much of power. Why don't I have so much power? He can lift the Govardhan on his little finger, and that too the tip of the little finger, not even this way. He's just picking up on this portion, which is the weakest portion. And I'm not even able to lift one brick on my little finger. And there are so many other comparisons. There are so many things that come to the pollutions that come to our mind, and that is why this knowledge remains guhya. And then he is talking about jnanam vijnana sahitam yajnatva mokshase ashubhat. So he is saying that he will give both jnana and vijnana. Now what is the difference between jnana and vijnana? We had discussed this thing very briefly earlier. Does anyone recollect? We spoke about science and applied science, right? For example, when electricity is passed through any high resistance material, it produces heat. That is science. But when you develop a coil out of using this knowledge, you develop an electric coil, put it into a heater. That heater is used for our water heating and whatever. That is applied science, right? So that is what is the difference here between jnana and vijnana. So the vijnana is realized science, okay? Applied science. If I had also mentioned this thing earlier, that if you observe until primary, typically the sciences, they are called as just applied, just science books, and from the secondary onwards, generally they are referred as applied science book or applied mathematics, because the application of whatever has been learned towards some practical applications is what is expected out of this knowledge. So Bhagavan is giving that applied knowledge as well. Okay, and where do we apply this knowledge? For what? For relieving us of the misgivings. Moksha se ashubha. So whatever is ashubha in us, that can be relieved. Right? So we carry this burden of the ashubha, and that is the reason we are in this material world. So when we are relieved of that burden, so just imagine if someone is traveling with suitcases 30 kg each in both the hands, how much speed can that person have? Right? Similarly, we are burdened by the karma that we have accumulated over millions and millions of lifetimes, and we are being burdened under that, and that is why our progress towards the bhakti, our progress towards the spirituality is usually very slow. So as we start relieving ourselves of this baggage, naturally our speed of going towards the Bhagavan, it increases very, very rapidly. So if we try to understand the overall structure of this Guhya Jnana, the first one, the shloka explained that Bhagavan himself is saying that this is Guhya knowledge, right? So how this whole chapter is structured, the first three shlokas, Bhagavan is talking about the developing of the Kevala Bhakti with the help of knowledge, right? So a lot of times we don't have the knowledge that the Bhakti is the most important aspect of life, and that is why it takes the last priority in our lives. And it has become so very natural for us that anything else that comes in the way of our this thing, anything material, we immediately change our priority. And it has become so prevalent that the whole of the culture that has become such that this comes to the last. So the moment we start making this as a priority, then with that taste for that knowledge develops. So that knowledge is very, very important. From 4 to 10, Bhagavan is talking about his relationship with the material world. Okay, we aren't discussing too many of those, we didn't read any of those shlokas, but Bhagavan is talking about a lot of his, relationship with the material properties. So one of the shlokas, it goes like that he is the thread on which all the material world is roped in as a Sutre Manigana Eva. So he is saying that as if the pearl of strings are held on a string. So he is that rope which holds this whole material world together. 11 to 19 are also very, very important shlokas. That is the reason I have taken that whole sequence from 10 until 13, wherein the Lord is describing about the distinction of the different type of people who have different degrees of knowledge about Bhagavan. Okay? 16 to 19 is talking about the Vishwaroop of Bhagavan. Then 20 to 28 is talking about how the Kevala Bhakti is superior to the worship of the other devatas. And 29 to 34, Bhagavan is talking about the Kevala Bhakti, how it elevates even the most fallen. The very fact that we are in this world, it means that we are fallen. Originally, we all of us were compatriots of Bhagavan, and this idea of the Ahankar came in our mind. We wanted to enjoy similar to what Bhagavan is enjoying in that mood, in competition to Bhagavan, and that is why we are in this material world where we are given different legal degrees of freedom, right? And everybody is trying to increase his area of influence, right? So someone, for example, today is a corporator, wants to become a mayor, the mayor wants to become a MLA, MLA wants to become a minister, minister wants to become this thing. So everybody is striving every moment to increase that area of influence, their area of power in several ways. So different people may try to increase this influence through different means. Some people, they want to earn more and more money. Someone is like Lakpati, wants to become a Karodpati, then wants to become a Arabpati, then, and there is no end to it, right? So we will understand each of these things from that perspective. Now, in the first sloka, Bhagavan had spoken about that this knowledge is confidential and it helps in reducing our burden of our karma, right? To moksha se ashubha. And he is then giving the example of what happens to those people who are not favorably disposition towards him. So, ashraddhadanaha purusha धर्मस्यस्य परतप अप्राप्यमाम निवर्तन्ते मृत्यु samsaramatva. So those who are not faithful in devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of the enemies. Therefore, they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. So, if we observe the general characteristics of people in this Kali Yuga, the faith in the Bhagwan is reducing. These days we come across so many people who take pride in saying that there is no God. There are debates, and the line of arguments from the atheists are far stronger than the line of argument from the theists. Because the theists, they have some Shraddha, but that Shraddha is not backed by proper knowledge. So you cannot argue, right? Whereas when someone is an atheist, he has so many other things which can refute the existence of Bhagwan. Some of the simplest of the arguments given are, if Bhagwan is there, why is there so many wars? Why so many people are being killed? Why so many innocent people are suffering? And those who are the worst, the mlechas, the yavanas, they are enjoying like anything. Right? And most of the arguments of the theists get beaten here itself. We have no answer. Right? But this knowledge, when we have it, it gives us the confidence that this material world is dukkhalayam ashashvat, which means it's full of miseries and also it is temporary. So this is just a passing phase. We have to go through this thing. Of course, this is a long passage. But during this long passage, how to ensure our next destination is a more permanent one. That's what is this knowledge important and valuable for. So at the 10th shloka in 9.10, I mentioned that Bhagwan is giving a lot of examples of his relationship with the material world. And he concludes that thing by saying, Maya Dhyakshena Prakruti Suyate Sa Characharam Hetu Nanena Kaunteya Jagadvi Parivartate. This material nature, which is one of my energies, he's saying one of my energies, is working under my direction. O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. Right? So we all know about the Kala Ganana as per the Hindu Sanskriti. Right? So we have 4 yugas. These 4 yugas form one kalpa, and at the end of every kalpa there is pralaya. Right? So everything is destroyed. Everything it goes back to Bhagwan and it's recreated again. And a lot of these stories, they have been drawn from this principle of our Sanatan Dharma, and then Noah's Ark and all those things, they have come up into the existence. Right? But the principle is the same, that at the time of Pralaya, everything is destroyed, and at the time of the Srijan, everything is recreated again. Right? So, few important things are that Maya Dhyaksha. So, Aksha is eyes. Maya Adya means in the beginning. Under my Aksha, which आपण म्हणतो ना माझ्या नजरेत हे झालं सगळं. So Bhagavan is saying that Maya Dhyakshena Prakriti. So under his guidance, this is moving about. But does it mean that he is very busy with all these things? Now, some of us who are running the teams, we all know how miserable we are, right? The miseries of our juniors also come on our head, right? So does this mean that Lord is equally miserable? No. In few other in between shlokas, Lord very clearly clarifies that I have created this world, but I am not part of this world. I am above this thing. So Lord's energies are taking care of these things. He is himself lying very nicely on the Shesh Shreya in the Kshirosagar ocean. Lakshmi ji is nicely massaging his feet, right? And this whole material world is just going on in its own. But at the same time, Bhagavan is controlling it. Then from 11, 12 and 13, these shlokas, they give us a hint about the types of people and their different degrees of knowledge they have. So essentially there are three different varieties. Janati, those who know the Bhagavan. Ajanati, those who do not know Bhagavan. And there is Avajananti, those who know wrong information about the Lord. And Bhagavan is describing about what happens to such people in these shlokas. So in 11, Bhagavan is saying, Avajananti mam mudha manushim tanumashritam param bhavam ajananta mama bhuta maheshwara. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the supreme Lord of all that be. This is the most dangerous kind of category of people to be in. There are more number of PhDs on Bhagavad Gita and Hindu literature by people who are non-Hindus. Do you know this fact? And they use this material qualification to deride this knowledge. They will pick up some shlokas, misrepresent them, and go around converting people. And just because nobody has the knowledge, when nobody has the right knowledge to refute it, they easily get convinced about these things. Right? So, this is the most dangerous category of people. Avajananti ma muda. Bhagavan himself is saying that they are mudas. They do not know Bhagavan, and that is why they are muda. What is the opposite of muda? Buddha. Right? So, it comes from buddhi. Buddha, one who has the qualifications of buddhi is a Buddha, and the opposite of that is mudha. Then the next category Bhagavan is talking about is mogha shamogha karmano mogha jnana vichetasaha rakshasi masurim chaiva prakrutim mohinim shritaha. So those who are thus bewildered are attracted by demoniac and atheistic views. In that deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. So this is another category of people who are materially very, very qualified, but the only objective of their whole this material life is simply in moghasha. So their asha is futile and totally directed towards only material things. And since they are all the time thinking of the material things, the spiritual elevation doesn't even touch their mind. And that is the reason they cannot even think of anything else than the sense enjoyment. And the next category is Bhagavan talking about Mahatmanastumam Partha Daivim Prakritimashvitaha Bhajante Ananya Manaso Jnatva Bhutani Mavyayam. O son of Prutha, those who are not deluded, the great souls are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. So it is best to be under this category. That if you know that who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is Bhagavan, then such people are not deluded by the material nature. Right? Now let's take some of the examples of these kinds of people from the Mahabharata itself, which we all know very well. Right? How many people were shown the Vishwarup by Bhagavan in Mahabharata? Who were shown? Sanjay and Arjun. Huh? Who else? Dhritarashtra. Who else? Bhishma. Who else? Duryodhana. Duryodhana was also shown. Now, just look at the categories. All of them were given darshan by Bhagavan, right? But when Bhagavan went as a Shanti Doot to Hastinapur with the Shanti Sandesh, Duryodhana had the audacity to order Bhagavan being captured and imprisoned. Bhagavan showed him his Virat Roop, and Duryodhana is saying that capture this Mayavi person. He is not Bhagavan or anything. He is just a Mayavi person. And that is why he is able to release himself out of the shackles that he was, the Duryodhana's army was trying to bind him with. Such a pity and such a shame that Bhagavan is in front of you, but you are unable to recognize him just because you do not know about him. It's so very sad. Right? And this is the category of avajananti mam mudha. They know wrong things about Bhagavan. Right? Then Bhishma Pitama, he was shown the Vishwarup as well. But he could not get over his vow. Right? He felt that his vow is more important than being with Bhagavan, and he chose to serve Hastinapur in spite of having to fight in a side which is against Bhagavan's, where Bhagavan was fighting. Right? So technically, having all the spiritual qualifications that were necessary for liberation at that time itself, just because he had certain of these concoctions, false concoctions of what dharma is, he could not get out of that tangle. Of course, Bhagavan was very merciful. When Bhishma Pitama was on Sharashaya, he was again shown this Virat Roop. And at that time, he could surrender to Bhagavan. And the third category is Arjun. Arjun was also shown as the Virat root. And Arjun says that I am unable to understand your form. Everywhere I just see you. So he starts paying obeisances in all the directions. He says that I am praying to you from front, from back, from the sides, the top, the bottom. Everywhere I see you and I am praying to you. And that is what our attitude should be towards Bhagavan. And it is such a beauty that Bhagavan is giving us the pleasure of being in a personal form. At the end of the Virat Darshan, Arjun says, I am scared to see your this form. He is trembling. So just imagine how scared we will be when we see that form. So we should be glad that we know about the personal form of the Lord, where He is nicely playing the flute in His Trivakra form, right? Nicely bent leg, and He is pleasurably playing His flute. He has given us such a beautiful form that we can relish and pray to Him, right? So, we should be mindful of these categories of how we know Bhagavan. Okay? We should never go into that avajananti. We should, if we are in the ajananti mode, we should go into the janati mode. Okay? Then, Bhagavan gives a very elaborate classification of these people and what happens to them. Right? So in 9.21, Bhagavan gives a very, very stark reminder that Tetam bhuktva svargalokam vishalam kshide punye martyalokam vishanti evam trayi dharma manu prapanna gata gatam kama kama labhante. When they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus, those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the three Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. This is a very, very stark reminder for all of us that in the Vedas there is a full ladder provided of how we can go from this world to the Swarga. So many paths have been provided. But Bhagavan is saying here that even if you go to the Swarga, Shine Punya Martya Lokam Vishanti. Once that Punya becomes Sheen, we have exhausted the pious credits, we have to come back to this mortal world again. And these conceptions are there in every culture. Okay? In our Sanatan Vedic culture, we have this Swarga Sukh where people drink that soma juice, have the Apsaras for association and all kinds of pleasures. Right? Some of the other faiths, they have slightly different names, but the conception is the same. Enjoyment in the other world. So if we don't get out of this mentality of this enjoyment, sense enjoyment in this world, even if we go to that other world, we are not aspiring for Bhagavan. We are just focusing on, oh, I get to drink that soma juice. So people, what do they think? Oh, there soma juice is available. Here soma juice is not available. Let me at least have some beer, some whiskey or something. Right? And that's how people get to do it. So just imagine someone goes to a very nice hill station. Okay? You book a 5-star room. every day $500 you are paying. So you go there for a few months and weeks. Every day your amount is getting reduced. And one day it so comes that your credit card cannot pay anymore. So from that hill station you come back to your home. The same thing happens is what is explained by Bhagavad here. That Shine Punye Marte Lokam Vishanti. And that is why we should never aspire for going to Swarga. We should be. In our Sanatana Dharma, fortunately there is a distinction apart from Swarga and Nark. Bhagwan's Dham is elaborated. This knowledge is not there in any other culture. Yes, Bachcha.
Who drank the whiskey and the beer?
There are some people who do it.
The question,
Who drank the beer and whiskey? So there are people who do that. So we should avoid. आत्तापासूनच तुम्हाला फुटगाण बांधून घे की ते तिकडे आपल्याला जायचं नाहीये. Okay? And the next shlok is the most beautiful shlok of Bhagavad Gita, most reassuring shlok of the Bhagavad Gita. I love this shlok so much that every time I feel that we should be able to emulate what Bhagavan is expecting us to do. And Bhagavan is saying, Ananyas chintayanto ma ye jana pari upasate tesham nityabhiyuktana yogakshemam vahamyaham. But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. If we observe the whole chitta of our material existence is, what I have, will it get exhausted? Will someone steal it? And the other part of the chitta is, I don't have this, I don't have that. But Bhagavan is giving us an assurance that He personally, Vahami Aham. He is not saying I am Vahami. He doesn't stop at that. Okay? He is saying Vahami Aham. I am carrying that Yoga Kshem to you. But what is the price we have to pay? Is Bhagavan trying to negotiate or barter with us? No. He's just giving us the tips. How can this be achieved? Ananyas chintayanto ma. Don't think of anything else than Bhagavan. He's just asking a very, very small price. But if we try to do it, we will understand how difficult it is. You won't believe every day about 1.5 hours I'm trying to chant. And not a single second it so happens that the mind is stable on Bhagavan. Every moment there is some or the other thought coming in the mind. They say that on an average there are 10,000 thoughts coming to a person in every minute. Which means that in a second there are so many thoughts coming. And that's how we understand how difficult is the price that Bhagavan is asking for us. Ananyas chintayantoma. Forget about thinking of Him all the time. Not even 1 second we are able to focus on Him. And our mind is so very crooked that it thinks what we have been told not to think about. Okay? Let's do a simple experiment. Don't think of a pink monkey. How many of you got the picture of a pink monkey in your mind? I told specifically, don't think of a pink monkey. But that is the first one that comes to our mind. We were our wildest of our dreams, we would have never thought about a pink colored monkey. Right? We have seen monkeys with the pink back. There are baboons over here. But we have never seen a pink monkey. There is nothing of that sort. But our mind thinks of it. And that is what is the trouble with our mind. And in the 6th chapter, Bhagavan gave very elaborate guidance to us about that mind is a friend as well as enemy. Right? So, we don't have enough time, otherwise this story of this Avantipur Brahman, which elaborates this particular shloka, is very, very beautiful. We will tell it some other time.
Maybe puja.
Yeah, some other time.
Maybe we share karams.
Another confusion that we have in our Vedic culture is what is the relationship between all these devatas and Bhagavan? Everybody, they get so fanatic about their Ishtadaiva that they don't understand even the relationship between these. So, Bhagavan is guiding about that one in the next shloka, which is Yepi anya devata bhakta yajante shraddhayanvitaha tepi mameva kaunteya. And in the next shloka, we don't do it with sandhi vichhed. I'll just read it straight. Yajantya vidhi purvakam. Now we know this is a sandhi. Where do we break the sandhi? Avidhi purvakam. If someone doesn't understand this properly, where to do this sandhi vichhed, they may say that yajantya vidhi purvakam. Right? So Bhagavan is saying that those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me. But they do so in a wrong way. Now what is wrong? Is Bhagavan saying that worshipping the other devatas is wrong? Is that what Bhagavan is implying here? If that was the case, I'm sure he would have never told Arjun to worship Shiv, Bhagavan Shiv, for getting the Pashupatastra. Right? He would have never told Hanumanji to be on the Dwaj of Arjun. Right? So what is he referring to when he talks about Avidhi Purvakam? What is Avidhi Purvakam? Thinking of other devatas to be independent of Bhagavan is Avidhi. Worshipping them in isolation for material gains. Ganpati Bappa Mala Buddhi. Without even understanding what buddhi means. There is a difference between buddhi and hushari. We don't understand that thing. Buddhi is understanding the Bhagavan is only buddhi. Ratta Marana is not buddhi. Ratta Marana is just hushari. Being able to do Popat Panchi just by learning and reciting and being able to recall it is not buddhi, it's hushari. Ability to understand the glories of the Bhagavan is buddhi. But in our common day-to-day thing, this buddhi, it has become so cheap that being able to remember a few things has become buddhi. We don't even know why Bhagavan, Ganpati Bappa is called as the Buddhi Chidevas. How many of us know? Why is he called Buddhi Chidevas? Anybody?
Because elephant.
Huh?
Because elephant
चंपक मधल्या गोष्टी
तो काय म्हणतोय?
So yes,
He's the most special God.
he is special, but what is his special?
He has a pet mouse.
Okay, but does that make him Buddhichi Devata? I am specifically asking, why is he called Buddhichi Devata?
I think the story about that Pradakshina, because that depicts that he has a
That is Hushari. There is a difference. That's what I said. There is a difference between Buddhiman and Hushar. That just explains his Hushari.
Is it like
How
that
many of
महाभारत लिहितात ना, त्यांनी सांगितलं
Mahabharat
होतं,
has been
तुला जर समजलं तरच तुला यायचं.
precisely. How many of you know that Bhagavad Gita was written by Ganpati Bappa? Bhagavad Gita was written by documented by Ganpati Bappa. Bhagavad Gita कशाचा भाग आहे रे दादा? महाभारताचा भाग आहे. In the so this is a part of the Bhagavad Gita is part of Mahabharata. And Vyasdev, when he wrote Mahabharata, his condition to the writer was that you have to write it without stopping in between, and you cannot write if you don't understand certain things. So Ganpati Bappa was the only one who had this qualification and that dedication to write this thing without stopping and ability to understand. And so much so that Vyasadeva at times had to dictate very, very complicated shlokas to Ganpati Bappa so that he gets time to think about the next part. Because Ganpati Bappa was smart enough. He said that I will write non-stop, but you have to ensure that you dictate non-stop to me. And his dedication was so much that when he was writing this whole thing, his lekhani broke out. So he plucked his one of the teeth and started writing it. म्हणून त्यांचा एक दात गेलेला आहे आपल्याला ते पण माहिती आहे.
But I thought
एकदंताय.
But I thought Parshuram broke his.
So now the same leelas happen at different points in time for different purposes. Okay, so the time in the Vedic context is cyclic. It's like a spiral which goes on expanding. So Ganpati Bappa has been eternal while Parshuram was existing, and anyway Parshuram is existing all the time because Parshuram is Chiranjeev and he is Bhagavan, so he is all the time existing. But Vyasadeva, he happened to be at a different time. So these same leelas happen for a different purpose at different times in different contexts, right? For example, Deepavali is an eternal celebration, right? It happened in Ramayana, it happened in the Treta Yuga too, right? But the context was different. So you'll find true versions of the same stories which are totally different than it. So Parshuram breaking it is also a valid thing, but in a different yuga. This one happened latest in Treta Yuga. Okay, when Vyasadeva described these things to Ganpati Bappa. Okay, so that is why whenever, even if we worship the other devatas, we ask for the things that are favorable for bhakti. Ganpati Bappa buddhi dya so that I can understand what you have understood. Lakshmi ji, please support me so that I can engage you in the service of Bhagavan. Saraswati ji, please bless me so that I can understand the complexities of the Bhagavan's name. Hanuman ji, give me the strength so that I can protect her. Right? So, worshipping the devatas with this proper context is very, very, very important. Okay? A lot of people misrepresent this particular shloka and interpret in wrong ways. So don't fall for it. There is nothing wrong in worshipping them. What is wrong is to worship them independent of Bhagavan. Understanding that in our culture as well, it is a multi-level monotheism. In the sense, Bhagavan is topmost and all the other ones are the appointed in charge of each and every factor. As long as we understand that, we will ensure that we are not doing anything avidhi. And what is Bhagavan asking from us? For doing the bhakti, he is asking, giving us very, very simple ways. He is asking this patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati taraham bhakti uparuttam ashnami prayatatmana. He is just asking patram, leaf, pushpam, flower, toyam is water, and phalam. Just four things he is saying. If you have nothing to offer, water is the most abundantly available here. At least that much you can offer. And he's saying that whatever you offer, I accept it with love. Right? So bhakti is not difficult. What we have to just ensure is that we offer these things to Bhagavan and please him. The next one, samoham sarvabhuteshu name dveshyosti na priyah ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya mai te teshu chapyaham. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all, but whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to them. If we do the literal translation, Bhagavan is saying that they are in me and I am in them. How many of you recall this beautiful Hindi song which has a similar meaning? Tu mujh mein hai, main tujh mein hu. Right? Main iske aage kya kahun? When we understand that in the material context, it gets so very easy to understand, मैं तुझ में हूँ, तू मुझ में है, मैं तुझ में हूँ. But when Bhagavan is talking about it, it gets so difficult for us to relate. And Bhagavan is saying that I am in them and they are in me. Right? And that is why this is called as confidential knowledge. Very difficult to understand. It's written in plain sight and meanings are very similar to what we enjoy in our material life too. But when we relate it to Bhagavan, we can't relate. Okay? And the conclusion of this is, now this is the only half part of the Bhagavad Gita which repeats in the whole Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, nothing else repeats. Man manadho bhakto madhyajimam namaskuru. It comes again in the 18th chapter, which is the last chapter. No, not last chapter. The last chapter. I think it's 64th verse. So, man manadho madbhakto madhyajimam namaskuru. Mame vaishyasi yuktvaivam atmanam matparayanaha. Engage your mind always in thinking of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances unto me, and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. Bhagavan is giving very, very simple tips of how we can go back to him. Just think of him, offer service to him, offer dandavats to him, and we can go back to him. We can go back to God. And since it is so very beautiful mentioned, this is the most concentrated essence of the Bhakti Yoga in the Bhagavad Gita. We will stop here today. If there is any question we can take.
You absolutely bit. Look, 1 to 29. Look, 1 he mentioned about Matsar.
Yeah.
Look, 29 mentioned about Dvesh. So, in what context it may be? Because if Arjun, why he feel that Arjun is going to envy or
No, he is not saying that Arjun is going to be envious of this thing. In fact, in previous sloka, he has already mentioned to Arjun that I am giving this knowledge to you because you are my friend. So his relationship with Arjun is already established. There is no envy in that thing. But he is just guiding Arjun that if someone has a dvesh or some asuya for me, what happens to them? So, just like whenever we want to emphasize certain things, we have do's and we have don'ts, right? So, Bhagavan is talking about both do's and don'ts, and that is the reason he is giving Arjun clear distinction so that there is no confusion in Arjun's mind. He is not anywhere talking this from the perspective that Arjun has these emotions towards Bhagavan.
You said Amudha, that you don't know.
Mudha.
Amudha. But he really don't know or he don't want to know about it.
If someone doesn't know, it falls in ajananti mode. If someone doesn't want to know, that falls in the avajananti mode. Means he is using his intelligence wrongly. Duryodhana, for example, he is seeing the same Virat Roop. He is seeing the Leela of Bhagavan that he is unable to tie with the shackles that he was trying to bind him. But he feels that he is just Mayavi. He cannot even relate that he is Bhagavan. He just feels that he is just Mayavi, some Jadugar who is showing some Jadu and some tricks. So someone who doesn't want to know is avajananti mode, which is more dangerous. If someone doesn't know, you can educate that person. But someone who is against it, it's very difficult to educate that person.
Yeah, especially teenagers.
No, teenagers, I will still classify them under ajananti. It's just that they do not, that age is such that they cannot relate to what it is. This knowledge is very, very subtle knowledge. Previously, Bhagavan spoke about 4 categories of people who come to them. How many of you recollect? Chaturvidha bhajante ma jana sukritam navarjuna arto jitnyasu artharthi jnani cha bharasharshana. So in material world, there are 4 categories of people. Arto, someone who is distressed. Jitnyasu, who is having some curiosity. Artharthi, who is in want of something. And Artho Jitnyasu, Artharthi, Jnani, someone who is looking for knowledge. Now the trouble is, the other 3 categories. Curiosity, no one has, everybody has curiosity, but never about Bhagavan. The second category, Artharthi, you want something, but you never want Bhagavan. You want only what Bhagavan can give me. So nobody wants Bhagavan. If you observe the number of people who are well-to-do and still having Astha are very few, because they feel that they don't need Bhagavan. I have got everything already. It's such a shame. Bhagavan says that those who have done pious things in their past life, I give them a birth in the house of well-qualified people or rich people, so that they can continue their bhakti. But the sad part is that the very resources they turn against the path of bhakti. So I'll classify these children under these three categories. Curiosity is not there, they don't want Bhagavan, and Gyan, they don't want about Bhagavan. So if Artha comes in your life, you are lucky. Trust me. If at any point, just 1 minute, me a point. If Artha has come in your life and you really long for Bhagavan at that point in time, you are the luckiest people in your life. I mean, in this whole world. Because that is the only thing that takes us to Bhagavan. And for Kali Yuga, this shloka has to be modified that 4 categories of people come to Bhagavan. Artho, Artho, Artho and Artho. The other 3 categories which are there in Bhagavad Gita never come to Bhagavan. So, children I will still classify under Ajananta. They do not understand the significance of this thing. So don't worry about them. They have their own spiritual journey. I am myself admitting this thing, until the age of 35, I never had read Bhagavad Gita, not a single shloka. I had a few other things, shlokas by heart, but never knew about Bhagavan. Yes, Bachcha.
So, but the people who didn't care about Bhagwan, the Bhagwan will punish them.
No, he doesn't. He says that he envies no one. Bhagavan doesn't punish anybody. Their own karmas come back to them. Okay, Bhagavan doesn't have anything to do with punishing. You don't worship me, so I do this thing. No. There are agencies of Bhagavan. Maya does everything. In the previous shlokas, we have learnt about this thing. Daivi Esha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya. Bhagavan says that my Maya is very difficult to overcome. And that's what we all of us are in. It's very, very difficult. She lets us feel that we are right. When some jnani person tells us about understanding of the Bhagavan, we feel that this guy is an idiot. No? There are so many people, so many IITs and IIMs, qualified people in ISKCON. They have given up their material qualification. People earning packages worth of crores. Vice presidents, owners and all those things. They have given up their whole thing and come to this thing. And people feel that they are fools. They have wasted the resources of the nation. The nation taught them this thing. They gave them so much of money. And they are fools. They have given up all these things to learn about Bhagavan. But don't understand that the biggest wealth that we can earn our life is bhakti. Everything. You can buy anything. Everything else can be bought. Bhakti has to be earned. You endeavor towards that. Only then that bhakti comes. And for this punishing and all those things, our karma system is all Bhagavan has very nicely designed it. Whatever karma, it just comes back to you. And it comes with vengeance.
त्याला त्याच्या भाषेत त्याने जो प्रश्न विचारलाय ना, तो असं गेलो तर तुला बाप्पा पनिश करतील असं आई सांगत असेल, त्याच्यासाठी तो विचारतो. तू त्याला त्याच्या कॉन्टेक्स्ट
तुझा प्रश्न एकदा परत विचारतोस.
परत एकदा विचार करणार. You ask your question again.
So if you do something bad, like those people who didn't care about
Bhagavan.
then I thought Bhagavan will punish.
Okay, let me give you a context of this thing. So Bhagavan is favorable to everybody. Bhagavan has already told that he does not envy anyone. Okay, but he has designed a system of karma, which means that it teaches us that if you do bad things will come to
You
you.
say the karma, karma.
Yeah. Karma, what does that mean? That if you do bad will come back to you. If you do good will come back to you. So, now that karma is Bhagavan's representative. So Bhagavan doesn't do anything, but that representative of Bhagavan, just like, for example, you have a prime minister of the nation, right? But he doesn't go arresting people. You have police which goes punishing the people, right? So similarly, Bhagavan, he is not worried about all these things. So he has police which takes care of people who do not behave properly. Okay, and they punish.
So he is a Bhagwan's representative.
He is Bhagavan's representative.
He is doing a good karma.
Yes, Bachcha.
Then what does God do?
What does
God do then? Just like
God, he does the Leela with his, he does pastimes with his friends. So, you know Vrindavan? You heard of it? You know what Bhagavan does in Vrindavan? No? Okay, so in Vrindavan, Bhagavan,
तू आता सांगितलं ना की त्याचे रिप्रेझेंटेटिव्ह आहे ते
थोडक्यात त्याला एवढं म्हणायचंय की जर बाकीचे सगळे करत असतील
तर भगवान मी तेच एक्सप्लेन करतोय त्याला की भगवंतांना हे सगळं करायची बाकीचं काहीच गरज नाही. ही इज प्लेइंग अराउंड विथ हिज फ्रेंड्स, ही इज गोइंग अराउंड विथ हिज गर्लफ्रेंड्स गोपीज, ही इज स्लीपिंग ऑन शेषशय्या which is there on the Shirodakshai, I mean, which is in the Shiva Sagar. Right? So he has, technically he is doing everything, but he says that he is aloof from it. Everything, तो आधीच्या श्लोकला होता का? मयाध्यक्षेण प्रकृती सूयते सचराचर. So just like a prime minister doesn't do everything in the city, in our country, right? Do you see leaves and lungs sweeping on the floor? No, right? But the roads are clean, the community is clean, right? So he has made those arrangements. So making these arrangements is what his Bhagavan is doing. So he has created this world, he has created this universe, and everybody is working under his guidance, under his direction. So he's giving direction to everybody. So have you felt sometimes that you wanted to do something wrong technically, but in your heart you know that this is not the right thing to do? Did it happen to you? It happened to you, right? So, for example, you may feel that, let's say something is lying somewhere. Let's say a friend forgets a very nice looking pen and he has forgotten about it and has gone somewhere. But he tells from us in our heart that this pen belongs to my friend. Even if it is lying unattended right now, it's my duty to pick it up and give it back to my friend. That's what Bhagavan is doing. He is giving us directions about the right things to do. And his representative Maya is telling us the other way around. So this is always a fight between what Bhagavan's good representatives are doing and what Bhagavan's bad representatives are doing. And we have to ensure that we always go with the right ones. Sorry, this one is the right one. And don't follow the wrong ones. So Maya will always tell, oh, such a nice pen. And anyway, my friend even doesn't know. Even if I pick up, nobody's going to know. But in my own heart, I know that this doesn't belong to me. And that is what is conscience, right? So he is there in our hearts also. That's what Bhagavan is doing. He is guiding everybody to do the right things. But still, some people, they land up listening to the wrong things. Okay?
next time when you see your friend's pen, you should give it to them. Okay?
But I don't even have a
शांती मंडलम.
ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः.
ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः.
सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः.
सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः.
सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु.
सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु.
मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्.
मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग्